Today I want to tackle a different topic. I want to talk about the problems of the game. Now, if you're seeing this as purely negative or hating, you're free to just click off the video. You don't have to suffer through it if you can't handle having a little talk about the negatives. So I want to start with the release of the game. AION Classic released, and the start was I was very happy with it. Also, I was happy with Gameforge. They prepared 3 servers for the release, which I was actually amazed by. And even though you could talk about they should have started or released it with 2 servers at the beginning instead of only 1, but that's just a bit of nitpicking, I guess. So far everything was great, but then a couple of weeks later Atreya opened back up again, the main server, and bots started coming in. But everyone noticed the other problems first, right, and ignored the bots every here and there. But that led to the bots being such an immense problem, which we still deal with right now. But before I go into this topic, I want to talk a bit about something else first. What I think is one underlying issue with the game itself is that there is no focus on casual players. A game lives and dies with casual players. That is the simple truth. That is why casual players will be a bigger focus of my talk here today. At the moment, casual players honestly said just waste their time with the game. They don't make meaningful progress at Kinah. And that is an issue. Some people might say, hey, that's just how AION has always been. And make the assumption that this is why we liked AION back then, which is only true to the halfway point. AION Classic is not how AION was back in 2009. Many things have changed, but let me go to that in a second. Yes, back in the days, open world PvP, for example, was a big plus for AION in my opinion. However, the gaming environment has changed. Nowadays, it has become insanely toxic, especially for casual players. Even if you say that Classic and 2009 AION are the same, which they aren't, but even if they were from a just game standpoint, if everything would be the same, the experience would never be the same from 2009 to now in 2023. That has not something to do with the game itself, but more the players. The players have changed. There are a lot of differences, but simply said, and that is something that a lot of people don't want to hear, people back then were so bad in AION and in gaming in general. Even nowadays I see and talk to people which are saying stuff like, oh, back in 2010 I was one of the best gladiators in the entire game. You know what you would be right now with your skill and knowledge of 2010? You would be average at best, but most likely below average. Players have become so much better at gaming, and not only skill-wise, but they understand certain concepts and game mechanics from other games, which they then take with them to other games, you know? Back in 2009 or 2010 or so, people weren't min-maxing everything. You were there to experience an unexplored world, to have fun, and to slowly progress. There weren't really many guides or videos that show you how to be the most efficient with everything. You just did what you thought was right. You didn't have all this knowledge that you have now. Nowadays, you just look at the channel of one random content creator. And if you want, you have everything there that you could need, how to efficiently level up, what dungeons are important, what is the gearing path for your class, and so on. Back then, you could go rifting with your level 30 green gear and be successful at it. That is impossible nowadays, because there are people that played on private servers for the last 10 years that know exactly how to do everything, planned to the tiniest thing. Have you ever seen these Super Mario 64 speedrun guys that do these speedruns blindfolded? That's how these private server guys are. While most of us were out playing other games or not having time to game at all for some time because of real life, They were mindlessly grinding this game on private servers for years. What I'm trying to say with this is that they really have everything down to the tiniest little thing in terms of knowledge, mechanics, exploits, and just generally how to min-max everything. So the game simply will never be the same as it was back then. Let me just pick one quick example before we move on to the next topic. The situation with the Darkpider entry in the core is not comparable from back then to now. So many people didn't even know about it, but even when people started to understand, they wouldn't camp there for hours and hours. Back then you could go there and hey, chances are you wouldn't even meet anyone at all. Today you're forced to make an alliance to get your DP entry. It doesn't matter at what time you go, there are always a minimum of 2 entire groups camping and just farming casuals for hours and hours endlessly. Even a lot of people that have a lot of time to play tell me like you can't even go at 3 in the morning there solo, because even then there will be like 1 or 2 groups camping the quest. The idea of this quest was good, it should encourage some PvP, and back then it did work. But nowadays people understand everything better and people will abuse these systems, which creates this entire toxic behavior. You gotta see this from a casual point of view. They are not like the hardcore players, which can be like, oh, it doesn't matter if I can't get this entry now, I will just try in the middle of the night or in the morning when everyone is sleeping or working. That is not an option for casual players. Casual players have their daily work and life, they only have 2-3 hours, and not even that on a daily basis. Expecting them to form an alliance, which takes a lot of time every single day, just for the DP stone, is ridiculous. Now I want to talk about different problems. The first one starting with Kinah income and Soulsickness. I don't even know where to start with this one. First of all, let's talk about leveling up. Number 1, the skill books are way too expensive. For my class, the skill books from level 40 to level 50 cost 6.4 million Kinah. That is way too much. But that alone wouldn't be the big issue. That's where we come to Kinah problem number 2. One entry of DP costs you almost 200,000 Kinah as a fixed cost, like you can't change that, and then additionally to that 5 Balao scales, which at the moment go for 60,000 per piece, which means one DP entry costs you 500,000 Kinah, which is quite a lot because a lot of times you make a loss of Kinah if you decide to go for a DP run. Which should never be the case that you make a loss for investing your time. Kinah problem number 3, the loot table is just messed up. If you farm and grind level 50 mobs, chances are you will drop a level 25 golden armor piece. That has been a problem at release and nothing has changed since then. This should simply not happen and should have been fixed in the first couple of weeks, where it was already reported by so many people. And for Kinah problem number 4, which is the last one I want to mention here, Soulsickness. Every now and then we all die in the game due to multiple reasons. Overconfidence, healer being AFK, the swords thinking the CCC over the mob is just decoration, the Spirit Master min-maxing his DPS so he has to use Sandblaster and add 20 additional mobs. Simply said, we all die here and there, and that is fine, but spending like 4 million Kinah to get rid of Soulsickness is ridiculous. Soulsickness in general is a very outdated system, so in my opinion it shouldn't even be in the game or have a very minor impact in the game. The problem in Classic now is that one death means like 300,000 Kinah loss, which is so bad because of the reasons mentioned above. You don't have that much Kinah income and have to spend it on so many different things. Soulsickness shouldn't massively contribute to that. Here I also want to mention that Gameforge makes very bad decisions that are so disconnected from their player base. The feedback for the Soulsickness came immediately on release, with people saying we can't pay 4 million Kinah for Soulsickness when we only make 300,000 Kinah a day. and the first instinct that Gameforge had was a pathetic 20% decrease of the Soulsickness cost. This did nothing, and every single person that saw this knew immediately that this will not help anyone. Sadly, everyone except Gameforge knew that. Then they tried it with a 30% decrease until we finally landed on the 50% decrease, which we have right now. Which is still bad, by the way, because it is unnecessary. It creates a negative environment for new and casual players. Like if Soulsickness would cost you 10,000 for one death, nobody would really mind dying once. But if it costs a person 300,000 for a death, well, let's just say I have seen people flaming the cleric like crazy for dying once. And that is not necessary. Nobody benefits from Soulsickness. It's just a decision of you take this one bad thing or the other bad thing. Either you pay a lot of money and have to be very careful to not die, or you live with a 5-minute timeout every time you die. Both options are not fun. For the next big topic, I want to talk about RMT, AP trading, cheating, and such. The RMT topic started very early on with a big streamer being able to buy Bakarma Spear for 80 million, being an expert crafter, finishing the Miragin set, and enchanting all of it to +10. And all of that in the first 2 weeks of the game. Suspicious? Additionally to that, there were screenshots of him promoting this on his Discord, saying he buys Kinah from his viewers for real money, yet nothing was done about that. But without going deeper into this, even AP trading is such a huge thing, which is just becoming more and more frequent. Like 2 weeks ago I made a video about AP traders, and a lot of people joined my Discord server to stand against this AP trading. In the first week following that, people posted so many videos of AP trading, we got a list of more than 60 different people doing AP trades, with a lot of them showing up in different videos, in multiple videos. The problem with that is that Gameforge doesn't take this serious. People cheat themselves so many Abyss points, which legit players actually have to work very hard for, and the punishment that Gameforge gives out to those AP traders is a simple 3-day ban. And they do not get their AP reverted, they do not get their PvP gear deleted, they do not get their Godstone from their officer quest removed. Such a light punishment doesn't stop people from doing that. They can either work for months to get their PvP gear as a legit player, or they could simply AP trade for a week, get banned for 3 days, and then they can keep playing with complete PvP gear and everything. Like, what is this? How can Gameforge be so blind or dumb to not see that this is not helping at all? If they would start with stricter punishments, like give them 2 weeks or a month ban, and most importantly remove all their AP stuff. If Gameforge would do that, people would actually be afraid to get banned and would stop or be more reluctant to AP trade. As for why I know this, with other people that stand against AP trading which joined my Discord server, also AP traders themselves, they also joined the Discord server. And I've talked to some of them, and they're very casual about it. They're not really, I don't know how to say it, they're not really afraid of anything. Like, they would openly admit to me, like, yeah, I've traded myself like 200,000 over the last 2 days or something like that. And they would even show me their that they have been banned for 3 days and they didn't have their AP removed or their PvP gear or their Godstone or whatever. They show this openly. They don't care about it. Because Gameforge doesn't enforce this stuff, and that is a huge problem. However, let's move on to the next topic. Free player choice. In AION you don't have skill points or attribute points that you can choose. Instead you have different stigma, which basically just give you different skills to use. Every class has two different builds, with one being the support build and the second one being the DPS build. The support build is necessary for PvE, dungeons, raids, etc., while the DPS build is for PvP. The support build is for most classes useless for PvP, and the DPS build cannot be used for endgame dungeons for a lot of classes, because the support build is needed for example clerics or enchanters to clear the dungeons. Now you can change those stigma around as often as you want, but you need a resource every time you change them. These resources are called stigma shards. These stigma shards are very rare, with casual players, which only play for 1 or 2 hours a day, getting like anything between 0 to 100 stigma shards depending on the content they do. But for most it ends up being less than 50 a day. So to explain this, I have to go a bit deeper into this patch. On this patch the endgame dungeon is Dark Puerta, which you can only go 1 time a day and 7 times a week, which means if you have a static group, you will have to be on your support build at least once a day. However, if you want to do PvP, you should be on the DPS build. So you have to switch back and forth a lot, it's just that you can't do that. For me as a chanter, if I want to switch from the support build to the DPS build, it costs me around 1,200 stigma shards. Now don't forget, I have to switch back from the DPS build to the support build again to do the endgame dungeon with my static group, which means I have to spend another 1,200 stigma shards on the same or the next day. So for 1 day of PvP, I need to spend more than 2,000 stigma shards. But let's say I'm a casual player, I only get 50 a day. You see the problem here? This barrier of not being able to switch freely or more freely between the different builds is simply stupid. There is no reason at all why you wouldn't want a player to have the best build for the situation he is facing. If a player wants to do the endgame dungeon, let them be on the support build. If a player wants to do a PvP, let them switch to the DPS build. It is that simple. Nobody's experience gets negatively impacted if other players can switch their build. I would even say it positively impacts the experience of everyone. I mean, let's say you recruit players for DP. Wouldn't you prefer everyone in this group having the best build possible for this dungeon? Yes, you would, and that's the important thing. It is a positive for everyone. Now, why does this barrier exist if it benefits every player? It exists because of greed. The stigma shards can be bought in the in-game shop for real money. 10,000 stigma shards for 9 euros. Now let's say you only want to do PvP once a week on the weekend, which by the way is a very low amount of PvP for people that are actually interested in doing PvP, and you stay on the support build for the rest of the week to do the endgame dungeon with your static group. That would mean you consume around 2,000 to 2,500 stigma shards per week, which means you have to pay 9 euro a month just to be able to play your class efficiently. This is ridiculous. They lowered the drop rate of these stigma shards so they can sell it to you in the in-game shop for real money. They created a problem just to sell you the solution for real money. How predatory is this shit? And this is a line that I will not cross. I will not pay for the solution to a problem which they themselves have artificially created. I gave this feedback very early on and I have mentioned it multiple times since then. Even though it is not the biggest issue in the game right now, it is a simple one to fix. The only problem with that is sadly the greed of Gameforge. Now for the last big problem I want to mention today, it's bots. The game is absolutely infested with bots, endless bots everywhere you look. I'm even standing right here while I'm talking and recording this to see how many people, how many bots showed up at this one place, only at this one place here in Hiron, while I'm making this video, while I'm talking to you. These bots are even cheating, like teleporting from mob to mob and location to location. It has just become worse and worse since release. This is something that has to be battled head-on with quick punishments. Bots have to be banned as soon as possible, before they can make profit. If bots have enough time to make profit, more bots will be created. But this concept is apparently foreign to Gameforge, because they have not stepped up their manpower or systems to fight these bots. They have just given up and now we live on a server that has more bots than actual players. The only statement we got from Gameforge was that they will keep fighting the bots the way they have been the last couple of weeks, which was back then not enough and simply won't be enough now or in the future. So hey, welcome to all the bots that are now ruling the server. So what I have to say to Gameforge, you have a game that has a very big focus on PvP, yet you don't punish people cheating and abusing systems that you officially stand against. You have a game where money is important because gear matters a lot, yet you don't put enough effort into stopping bots and RMTs, including gold sellers. You have a game where switching playstyles is important to do both PvE and PvP, yet you make it extremely hard to switch between both, with the only solution being to spend more money in the in-game shop, which is very predatory, by the way. I did go into AION Classic with good intentions and hope that Gameforge learned the lesson with Retail AION, that they want to make AION a good and living game that attracts new players, veterans, casuals, and hardcore players. But the way that they handle all these situations and just want to squeeze out an extra euro from the player base everywhere makes me lose hope and interest in the game. I mean, when is it enough money to squeeze out of your player base, Gameforge? We pay a bit more than 13 euros a month for Seal's Aura at the premium status. We pay 25 euro a month for the battle pass. And don't say you don't have to buy it. Yes, it is intended that we do buy it. Because if you realize players don't buy them, you will just put more valuable stuff in there to make it a must-have. Which is almost confirmed that AP items are coming soon in the Battle Pass, because not enough players are buying the Battle Pass that have the same things in them every single month, like we have since release. Also add to that the 9 euro fee for Stigma shards, so you can once a week play your class properly and do the content that you enjoy. And all of that is additionally to the in-game shop stuff that includes loot packs, costumes, and much more, where we will probably also see progression items very soon. Like honestly, Gameforge, when is it enough? People can comfortably play World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV and so many more with only the subscription cost of up to 15 euro a month. Why do you need 50 euro or more from players? There is a reason why players call you Greedforge. Is that a reputation that you want? I don't think so. So many people, including myself, want you to start working with the player base and not holding AION hostage from players that love AION so much. Because right now it looks like the only way to enjoy AION is if you spend 50 euro or more a month and ignore all the bots and cheaters around that you, Gameforge, do not take care of. That is not good, neither for AION nor for your future games as a publisher. Honestly, I love AION as a game. I like the battle system, I like the story, and the theme around it. I had many videos planned for my YouTube channel, which includes dungeon guides, class talks, class guides, and I've even started to work on lore videos. But I just kind of stopped, because this money-hungry slaughter of AION is robbing me of my motivation. I had PvP videos planned, but with that many cheaters and AP traders, I've given up on PvP. These days I only log in once a day to run DP with my static, and then I'm done and I log off. There are too many issues with this great game. Simply because you, Gameforge, don't want to put in the necessary effort to run such a game. You only want a profit. That's not working. And you should have learned that from Retail AION. Could be that releasing this video, which is more on a negative note because it talks about problems and holds Gameforge accountable, will get me kicked from the content creator list of AION. I am aware of that, and if it is the case, so be it. I will simply not stay silent in fear of getting kicked. I am speaking my mind and I will talk about problems. I will not let this freedom be taken away from anyone. I would love to hear your opinions on all of the stuff that I talked about today. Leave some comments down below or join the Discord server to discuss everything with us. As for me, I'm just a passionate gamer that likes making content for others to enjoy. And my journey is far from being over. I haven't even started it. I have a lot of great things planned in the next month, so I hope you're joining me on my journey. So have a wonderful day and see you on the next one.